Canada finishes the Sochi Olympics with 25 medals, one short of their mark at Vancouver. For a review of the Winter Games, we bring in Stephen Brunt from our Sportsnet studios in Toronto. Now, a lot of concerns about Russia being named the host of the Olympics, but all in all, did they do a good job, Stephen?
Well, it's, I guess, $50 billion, you get what you pay for. Everybody who was there, and you know there were a lot of complaints before the games about some of the accommodations, especially for people. There were worries about the logistics, there were security worries. But once the games got going and the focus was on the athletes and on the venues and maybe not about stuff around that, the venues were spectacular. The Olympics came off without a hitch. There was no security incident, which is a relief to everybody. And I guess maybe most importantly, the athletes seem to have been happy. They liked the competition venues. They liked the village. They thought they were in a position to do their best. So that's kind of job one when you're staging an Olympic Games.
Some are saying this is a big win for Putin and maybe not such a huge win for Russia down the line. Any comment on that?
Well, look, the Olympics are always a propaganda vehicle. They just are. That's why countries pay for them, because it's a way to polish up your image and soften your image around the world and send us a very specific message, because you've got the big stage, you've got all the cameras there, and you control the show. So in that sense, I guess for Putin and for Russia, they got their message out. It was like one big television commercial for the new Russia, but the things that people have qualms about that are going on in Russia right now, I don't think it made those things go away for most people around the world.
All right, well, moving on to Canada's performance now. I know we were watching, the medal count go up, and then, we were dropping down. At certain times we were first, and then obviously we finished third in the medal standings. Were they a success for Canada, these games?
Yeah, I think you have to say they didn't hit their internal goal, the COC's goal, which I think was 30 or 31 medals. So that's what they were hoping for after the 26 in Vancouver Whistler. There were 12 new events, 36 new medals in these games. So actually there were more medals to be won. And so that 25 maybe doesn't look quite as good as it is even relative to Vancouver, because there were more opportunities. But if you look at it as a whole and look back to Turin and the Olympics before that, Canada has made great strides in these last two games because we've not just invested in sport, but invested in sports and in the athletes who have the best chance to win. The whole own the podium philosophy. And I think by and large that paid dividends for Canada once again in Sochi.
Sometimes the games isn't so much about the medals, it's about the moments. For you, what was the Canadian highlight of the games?
Boy, there's a bunch, aren't there? The Dufour-Lapointe sisters right off at the beginning was obviously gorgeous, and the women's hockey, the comeback. The men's hockey seemed kind of clinical in the end and almost predictable, but the way the women came back against the Americans. But for me personally, there's a guy named Jan Hudats, a skier an alpine skier who won a medal, who's had a kind of a star-crossed career. He's had a ton of injuries. No one expected him to be on the podium in Sochi. A lot of people didn't think he'd even get to Sochi because he was banged up this year. So for Jan to get that medal at this late stage in his career, somebody I've covered and somebody I know, for me, that was my number one moment in Sochi.
All right, Stephen, thanks so much for your insight on this. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Wilder.